The question that I wanted to start by asking you, and I'll get you to write down your answer to this, is I have personally found that a lot of us entrepreneurs kind of believe that building a business should feel really hard. Like it should be hard work. But the more content like yours that I consume, the more I start to think that maybe it doesn't. Like maybe there's a better way to do it. So my question for you is, if somebody is watching this and they are building their business, how can we tell the difference between working in alignment, like working from the heart, and just not working hard enough? How do you think we can tell the difference?
And I must write the answer because it's going to be long.
Yeah, that's okay. Even if you want to do bullet points or whatever, we'll come back to it at the end and we can jump into it.
Okay.
Perfect.
I wrote it with my unicorn pen, so it must be the truth.
Only honesty comes out of a unicorn pen. I wanted to start this conversation with actually something that I read on your website, and I believe it's on your YouTube bio too. And I actually wrote it down because I was like, I really, really like that. It really resonated with me. It said, break free from self-doubt and financial fear through deep questions and radical honesty so you can build, earn, and live from the heart. Deep questions and radical honesty is very much what I like to do here. So I really wanted to talk with you today, just starting off with this belief that building a business and becoming wealthy has to feel really hard. Because I've noticed in myself this belief that like when things start to feel fun in my business, when they start to feel like easy, I would say, I have this almost sense of like impending doom. Like it's all about to come crashing down because I'm not working hard enough and like I need to be doing more, because if I'm not working hard, then I can't expect to grow my business and become wealthier. So I'm curious, is that a belief? Like, did you ever carry that belief along the journey of scaling your business?
Yeah, I had it a lot at the beginning, and then it started to fade away slowly because of history. Having history and having had the experience that I have seasons where I work really hard and a lot, and seasons where actually I get to chill out, but still get things done, then I realized that I have full seasons and quieter seasons, and then it's fine. Yeah, I think at the beginning I was trying, just like a lot of people, to copy paste what I used to experience in the corporate world and just be working the same way, but it's very different.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. We probably have this expectation of like we need to work all day because that's what the corporate world teaches us.
Yeah.
Interesting. So did that feel like a pretty big shift for you, or was that something that it took kind of work on your end to detach from that belief?
I think there is also something else to take into account is that at the beginning, there is no way to know what's going to work. So you actually have to put more effort into trying things. And that can seem exhausting because you do things that sometimes get zero traction. You have nobody who wants to participate in what you're offering. You're just putting out there content that nobody's watching yet. So you have to try a lot of different things and it can seem exhausting, but actually there is no other way to do it because you don't know what's going to work unless you do the work and figure it out. So I think this is also the distinction because with time, you actually understand what works for you, what type of content you like to create, what type of offers you like to put out there, what type of people you like to work with too. And then it becomes easier and easier because you have the experience.
Right. Yeah. So you just kind of have to go through that season and put in the reps.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's finished because, for example, for me, I did that in French for many years. And I succeeded. I created a beautiful business, millions of euros. And now here I am, humbling myself, working in English and getting people to discover my work. So we have cycles and then we start fresh because we want to discover something new and we want to, we want to understand what we're made of and takes courage. But it's also, yeah, I mean, if you're really curious about what you're capable in this life, you're not going to stop there. You're going to keep growing.
Yeah. Become an inspired idiot all over again.
Yes.
That makes sense. So this was something that I actually thought would be interesting to get your perspective on because it was probably about 6 months ago. I interviewed a gentleman who had grown a 7-figure business from making YouTube content. And he gave me a piece of advice that has always kind of stuck with me because I think it bothered me a little bit. Like he basically said, your business is not your art project. Like you're not here to, express yourself. This is about providing something that people actually want, and it's not about following your passion. And I know from watching a lot of your content that you talk a lot about, building a business and building a life from the heart. So would you say is building a business from the heart, would you say that that is the same as following your passion?
Yes and no. Because not everything that we're passionate about is worth becoming a business. Like, for example, I love dancing. I go dancing multiple times a week. I take a lot of classes. I'm becoming really good at it. Am I going to become a dance teacher? I'm not sure. So not everything is worth becoming a business. Some things are just meant to be passion. But I think the difference is that, okay, there is a sentence I like to ask. There is a question I like to ask the people I work with. If you had all the money and the time in the world, what would you do every single day? What would you be talking about? Where would you still be spending your money? What is this thing? And for me, at the beginning, it was naturopathy because I discovered natural medicine and I was so passionate about it that I wanted everyone to know that you get to be your own doctor in a way that you get to do your research and figure out what works for you. And there are many ways to heal and not only one way through allopathic medicine. And I was so passionate about it. If it would not have been a job, I would have still talked about it all the time. So there is something about it which carries energy. So I understand that the person you talk to was a man. So I also believe that there is something slightly different between a man which is more maybe oriented strategy and, business oriented in a way that's very square. And as a woman, I feel that things are more round. There is more the fact that I choose to honor the energy flowing through me. And that if there is something that's alive in me, it's worth being shared with the world. So I think this is maybe the difference, but we all have both and we all need both. Listening to the energy flowing through us, because I believe this is also what's going to carry you through time. Because if you're able to follow that, it's going to keep you full of vitality. If you're only using the energy of building in a strategic way, then something will be missing and you might end up exhausting in the end because you didn't listen to life flowing through you. You just thought, oh, that's a great business idea. I'm going to go and make it happen. And you might make the millions, but you might feel empty in the end and tired.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I've actually realized that because when I first went to college, I went to art school. So like I literally went to school for like
Yes.
painting and stuff. And it was after I got that degree that I realized maybe I can love art and maybe it doesn't need to be the career path that I pursue. And then I went through the same thing with fitness. I was like, I can love fitness. That doesn't mean it needs to be what I build my whole life around.
Exactly.
Interesting. I like that question though. If you had all the money that you wanted and you had time freedom, what would you spend your time doing? And then maybe build a business around that, what you really, really feel pulled to doing.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. That makes me feel very good because I would actually be doing this. I would be interviewing people.
That's awesome.
I love that. Okay. That's really cool. So I mentioned to you I've been watching a lot of your content specifically recently in preparation for this call. And I was watching a live call that you did with I want to pronounce her name right. Reagan Hillier. Is that
Yeah.
am I saying that right? Yeah. And I heard her when she was introducing you, I heard her say that you manifested your growth from earning around $10,000 a month to earning about $600,000 within about a period of a year.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear that, like whenever I hear that someone manifested their success, I'm always curious what happened in that space. Like what transformed for you? Are you open to sharing like what you actually changed in that year? Did you, raise prices? Did you launch something? Did you, work more or change your business model?
Well, it was not one thing. It was multiple things. And I also want to share that it is not, how do you say, it took 10 years to be an overnight success because I had set the groundwork before. So I had been an entrepreneur since 2012 and it happened in 2021. So it was 9 years in. And then the year after, actually 10 years mark, I did 1 million in that year. So 10 years to create 1 million, which is interesting because this is not originally what I was aspiring to. I just wanted to live a decent life. I had modest aspiration and dreams, but life had greater plans for me. So what happened is that I was slowly building my business along the years, slowly raising a little bit my prices and getting more and more clients because people got to talk about what I did. And, you get great testimonials and then more people come and it's just organically growing. If you don't give up, if you're truly committed, it will always organically grow if you don't collapse and like get scared about everything. It's just slowly bit by bit you grow. And then 2020, I was the lead teacher in someone else's training. 2019 and 2020, I was the lead teacher. And then 2021, we separated professionally because we disagreed on COVID. And I was very much a freedom fighter and he wasn't. And so I spoke my truth and it became really hard to work with him. And then I separated professionally and then I decided to launch my own coaching training, 2021. In a way, I was lucky because it was COVID. So a lot of people were online and they had seen before that I was a lead teacher in someone else's training, but maybe they were not necessarily attracted to this training. And from the moment I launched mine, it was full, more than full. I had 63 people on the first round. So it was amazing. So there is this. There is COVID times where I spoke my truth and actually the people who were actually questioning the narrative found me and they were grateful that I was actually speaking my truth. So it is very important to speak who you are because then the people looking for you can find you. And I think that before that, I was a bit neutral, vanilla online. I was just sharing what was important to me, but I never had to take a stand before. So it was hard, but also it was very rewarding. So I understood that this is very important because myself, I like to work with people who are bold and actually stand up for what they believe to be true. That same year, two things happened. I choose to cut cords with France in terms of business because my business had always been in France for the past 9 years. And I decided to create a company in the UK where I would pay less taxes and where I would be just more free in terms of paperwork and everything. So I think that helped me spread my wings because when you have rules that you disagree with, like a few ones, like if you make more money, they're going to take a higher percentage. And in the end, you're going to make less money. And if they take your money and then they're going to buy vaccines with them, then you disagree with that too. Like different things. You're like, okay, I disagree with all of that. So I'm just going to live and do something else with my money. And because I did that, I believe I had more spaciousness to spread my wings. Like, okay, now I can expand because I'm not going to be overly taxed and I'm not going to participate in a system that I disagree with. So that was really powerful. And I decided to move abroad again because I was before COVID, I was more of a digital nomad. And during COVID, I was living in Berlin with my partner. And it was great because I had a lot of time to create, but I was also suffocating. So we decided to move to Costa Rica and it also created more of an expansion. Like, okay, I can breathe again. I live in the tropics again. Oh my God, I feel alive. So there's the aliveness. And maybe the last part is about working with Regan. So at the end of 2020, I decided to join her container. It's a mastermind, a year-long mastermind. I ended up staying 3 years because it was awesome. And I didn't think I belonged. I didn't think I was part of this big crowd of powerful women who can make a lot of money, because I felt that I was small. I was French. So I was not working in the big arena, and I was more shy, reserved, and I doubted myself. But from the moment I joined a bigger crowd of people who were really believing in themselves and believing in me, I started to believe in myself more. And doing the work with her, doing the exercises, I've always been like a good student type of person. So if you give me coaching exercises, I'm going to do them all the time. And that truly works. So that's also a big part. Yeah.
Wow. I'm always really interested in when people talk about making these, what I mean, what you said, it was a 10-year overnight success, right? That's always the case. But I've heard you talk about this a lot in your content. And one of the first videos of yours that I watched that really, I went back and watched it like 2 more times, was one where you were really talking about the identity shift. And I remember one line specifically, you said that, if I lost everything today, I know that I could build it again, because it's not about what I've built, it's about who I've become in the building. And that's something that I've started really picking up on more entrepreneurs talking about as they've scaled a business, is that you get to a point where you realize it's not so much anymore about like the strategy and the tactics and the logic of it. It becomes about becoming the version of you that can actually hold the thing that you say you want.
Also, the version of you that is creatively able to bounce back and recreate and keep growing and keep iterating what she's created, because the world is evolving really fast. So if you think that you're going to create one thing and it's going to last forever, you're mistaken, because everything is forever changing. So if you become someone who is able to take what's happening in your personal life, professional life, and turn it into gold again and again and again, then you're definitely winning. And you have no idea what's going to happen, especially right now, with AI, with so many things are changing. But if you're someone who's able to create and trusting your ability in renewing yourself because of who you are, then you're always going to be winning.
Yeah. Wow, interesting. Yeah, that what you said in that video really stuck with me. It's not so much about specifically what you create, it's who you become in the creation. That
Yeah.
really resonated with me. So one of the things that I've heard you mention in a couple of your videos is this idea about how you started identifying as successful before the results actually existed. I love this topic. I love hearing people talk about this. And I've found that when I have practiced this, like believing and feeling like I already have, like, let's say the wealth that I desire, I can't always, or I feel like I can't always tell the difference between doing that and feeling like I'm just like lying to myself. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. How is identifying as the thing that we desire, not like, how do we do that without just feeling like we're just being delusional?
Well, if I may, we're always being delusional because we tell ourselves stories all the time. And then you get to choose if you tell yourself positive stories or catastrophes. So we're very, very eager to create the worst scenarios in our mind to get ready for them. Like, what if I end up with no money and I end up, dying in the street? We always make that happen in our mind naturally because we're just afraid and looking for any problem. So we are delusional in the wrong way. So we can also catch ourselves and say, hey, okay, I see I'm being delusional. I'm going to play with it. I get to wear the darkest glasses ever. And okay, sometimes it's useful. For example, I'm building a house right now. If I take my darkest glasses and I look at what's wrong, what's the worst that could happen, then I get to be ready and to find the right builder and to set the right frame for him to work and ask the right questions and anticipate a few things so that everything goes smoothly, at least as smooth as possible. But then if I stay with the black glasses, then my life will be like hell. So it's interesting at some point to shift the glasses and take the pink ones and actually envision the brightest possibilities. And when you live like this, what I find interesting is that you get to meet people who are also doing that, people who are picking up your energy and want to help you along your project. It's incredible. Since I've started building my house, I met different people who have a lot of experience in construction, and they all said, do you want me to visit your construction and give you a few tips if I see some things? Like, yeah, sure, come. And I used to think with the black glasses, I used to think I would be alone in this project. But actually, I'm really not alone. I get a lot of help, a lot of angels on my journey. So it's important to understand that there's like a whole range of things we can imagine in life. But then this is our own choice to focus on what's the best that can happen. Because the more you think about the best, the more the mind will find example that the best is actually happening. And the more we're going to emanate something different rather than being closed off to life, we're going to be more open to life. So we're going to create more opportunities. And I do believe that the more you imagine that something beautiful is going to happen, the more subconsciously you find solutions for it to happen. Like, okay, you want this beautiful picture in your mind, whatever it is, and then you're going to go to bed with it. Like, I like to do that just before going to bed, really envision what I want to create. And then when I wake up in the morning, I have fresh ideas. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I could say that in my next podcast. Or I could reach out to this person. Maybe she can help me create what I want to create. And because I'm tuned into this vision, then there are parts of me which are going towards this vision. So we're creating it with life. So that's important to be delusional.
I love that. I've never heard somebody give that example before, that we are always being delusional, but most of us are so much more comfortable being delusional about the worst case scenario.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I feel like something just clicked in my brain because that is so true. I feel like I grew up that way, always kind of anticipating what I didn't want to happen, and the story that would often play in my mind is like, well, if I anticipate the worst case scenario, then I'll be prepared for when it happens. It's like we're always trying to be prepared for things not going our way. But you can kind of notice that and say, like, well, what if I instead prepare myself for everything going my way?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. It's really funny that you're actually building your house right now. This is exactly like thinking about this exact topic is what kind of opened up this subject for me because I'm also building my house right now. And it was probably about 2 months ago. My partner and I learned that our house build is going to cost about, I think it's like $60,000 more than we initially anticipated. So I remember when I first heard that news, I was disappointed and I was like, oh, this sucks. Okay. And then the more I sat with it, the more I was thinking like, okay, well, this is working for me somehow. Like there's something in this experience that is going to work out for me in the best way possible. And I started practicing like, okay, how would I behave right now if I already had every penny that I needed for this? If I wasn't disappointed by learning about this $60,000, if I already had that $60,000, what would I be doing right now? Like what actions would I be taking? How would I be feeling? And I just practiced living in that. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would rather live in that energy of everything's working out than to live in the energy of like, oh, this sucks, bad things happen to me, etc.
Yeah, I love that. And I do believe that there is always a way. I keep telling myself there is always a way. Even if I don't see it right now, there's always a way and it's going to open up. But if I'm focused on the obstacle, then I'm going to be stuck and I'm going to be generating these tensions inside of me, but I need the openness to see the way. So it's okay to be upset in the moment and to process the emotions. I really love to use EFT, tapping.
Mhm.
I do a lot of tapping. So EFT, I talk about it with friends, with coaches, and I journal about it. But then I try to go back to a space where actually it's open and where the energy can flow again and show me the way. Okay. For example, I like to tell myself, okay, universe, show me what I'm not seeing in this situation because there must be a way. Show me the way. I trust that there is a way. And then things usually open up later on.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Wow. Okay, I want to come back full circle now to the question that we initially opened with that I know you wrote down a very thoughtful answer to. So I'll remind everybody watching about what the question was. So my initial question for you was if someone is watching this and they're trying to build their business, how can we tell the difference between working in alignment, working from the heart and just not working hard enough? I know you wrote quite a bit on your paper. Can you briefly hold it up to the camera just so we can see your response? Oh, yes, look
Okay.
at that. Okay.
You want me
Perfect.
to?
All right. Yes, please.
Okay. I answered, the first thing is to let life flow through you. Things will feel sometimes effortless and sometimes hard, and it's okay. Keep going and let yourself be taken away by the great force flowing through you. It's a bit woo-woo, but I live in Bali, There is no such thing as working too much if you learn to take care of yourself and follow your heart. There is a rhythm and an intelligence at play.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminded me of what you said, I think in your response to my question about passion was be letting yourself be pulled by the thing that you would do whether or not you were being paid for it.
Yes.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. And I get a lot of people who used to experience burnout
Mhm.
in my coaching and in my trainings. A lot of people come because they discovered coaching and they want to follow a new path and change their lives and contribute from the heart. And they've been burned out in the past and they come with this energy of if I work hard, I might burn out again. First thing first, they're a different person now. It was then, this is now, things are different. And they get to learn how to take care of themselves, their basic needs, good sleep, eat well, take care of yourself, and listen to the life flowing through you. And if you do that, if you put yourself of service to life, and if you follow your vocation, your calling, even if you're not sure it's your calling at the beginning, because at the beginning we're always doubting it like, oh, should I do that? I don't know. Well, try and you will see if the doors open for you. If you don't try, you will never know. And maybe the first steps will feel a little bit off, but the first steps are the ones which are going to lead you to open new doors. I started as a naturopath and I loved it for a few years. If I had never been a naturopath and practicing natural medicine, I would not have discovered coaching. And now I'm a coach and I really truly live and breathe coaching. I love it so much. So I would say the first step for me was a little bit uncomfortable. Like I like it, but do I want to do that my whole life? That was a bit, I didn't know. It was uncomfortable. It was new. I had never been an entrepreneur before. And then suddenly the path opened up. And if you learn how to take care of yourself and listen to this energy, and if you follow it, and it's scary because a lot of people think, where is it going to take me? Like, how far are we going? And what's going to happen? I'd like to know beforehand everything that's going to happen, but there's no way to know. There's no way to know. And you know what? It's better not to know, because if I had known that I had to speak publicly and do interviews and things, I would not have done it because I was so afraid of it. If I had known that I would, I don't know, create online programs and teach people, I would have thought, no way, I'm not doing that because I would have been scared about all those things. But step by step, I grew as a person and I became the woman who's able to do that. So it's great that we don't know before. Yeah, life has great plans and we just need to be willing to say yes.
Yeah. And I mean, you brought up two really good things there. I mean, I think that it's impossible to look at the road ahead and say, okay, well, how is this going to play out? What's all going to happen? Because of course you're going to be afraid of it because the person who you are today is not the same person who's going to do those big things like speaking on stages and stuff. And you just have to trust that you're going to become the person who's capable of doing those things. But the other
Exactly.
thing too is that, like you said, you've had some clients come to you and they've experienced burnout in the past. And so they're kind of afraid of burning out again. But I think that that also gives merit to what you said before about pursuing things that you feel really pulled to doing, because there's a very different feeling when you're working hard on something that you feel very drawn to, as opposed to working hard on something that you feel like you have to push yourself to do.
Exactly. And also, I want to add that we're supposed to work hard. We're supposed to have building seasons. And today, I don't know if this is because this is the influencer era. People think that we're just supposed to sip matcha and I don't know, whatever, take beautiful photos and get really successful. I mean, it was never like this before. This is just the past few years. So for me, you discover what you're really good at and then you put in the reps. You become really, really good at it. You practice a lot and then you get known for what you offer to the world because people want to work with you because you have good reputation. And that was something that was important in the past, to have good reputation for the quality of your work and not only beautiful photos. And then, yeah, you have building seasons and then you get to enjoy the fruits of every seed that you've planted. And I wish we had more common sense to come back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that side of it though, and sharing that, your overnight success was a 10-year journey that some people just saw as overnight. Cause I think there is a lot of that. There's a lot of people now who will sell, passive income, and I make money while I'm on the beach. And while there could be some merit to that, I think a lot of times it's often coming from the intent of selling people something. So I agree with you. I think I'm very drawn to creating a life that I don't feel like I need to escape from. I want to create a life and a business that I feel very pulled to and excited to work on. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing that side of your journey. The last question that I always like to ask people is, like I said, I make this content for people who feel like inspired idiots. So if you could pass along even one piece of advice to people who, are on their inspired idiot journey, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Okay. I want to remind everyone that everybody is a gift for the world because everybody comes with a unique blueprint, with unique experiences and unique skills and unique passions and things they want to fight for. And because of this beautiful blueprint and this uniqueness that we must be sharing with the world, we have things that we want to put out there. And not everybody will understand. And that's okay. But it's important that we do it because the right people will find us because we did it and they will be grateful for it. And today, when I look back, I've had so many people on my journey writing me and saying, thank you for showing up. Thank you for putting out this offer, which might have looked weird to you, but actually this is exactly what I needed when you did it. Thank you for saying those words in the podcast you recorded last week. And you have no idea whose life you're going to impact because you're a little bit weird and you're a little bit an inspired idiot. Just be you because the world needs you. And sometimes you might think that other people did it before and that it's not needed that you're doing it, but they didn't do it your way. So please do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of a piece of advice I got very early on in my entrepreneurial journey, was that people need different messengers for the same message. That has
Yeah.
always stuck in my mind.
Yeah. And more, I think, because people get more distracted now. So more.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Well, thank you so much, Anne Claire, for coming on with us. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I'll get you to hang on for a minute so it can upload, but I just wanted to say thank you before we end it off here. This was really cool. And I'm curious if that is a belief that you ever carried. Oh dear. She's gone. Well, that's fun. She'll be back. It was too good of a question for her to not come back.
Now I changed the
Yes.
Wi-Fi. I have two, and depending on the days, sometimes one is better. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's okay. I figured you would be right back on. You actually, the picture looks even clearer now, so maybe this one will be even better.
yes, today this is the winner. Okay.
All right. That's okay. I lived in Southeast Asia for a little bit, so I completely understand. Sometimes it just happens. So I'll kind of just jump back in.